Okay, we might make a start then. We are recording this webinar, so people can access it after the presentation. So welcome to everyone who's able to make it this morning. Thanks for attending, and this is the second webinar we have around recycling solutions for on-farm plastics. It's part 2 of a 3-part series. Before we get too into it, just a couple of housekeeping things. We're going to have question time at the end, and we're running this webinar a little bit differently, so you will be able to go off mute and ask a question, or else you can put your questions into chat. We're also recording, so if you don't want your face on the recording, you can also turn your camera off. And as I mentioned, there'll be questions at the end. So we might get started, Ellie, if we can just go to the first slide. I wanted to do I guess, an acknowledgement of country. So to acknowledge the traditional owners of the country on which we are all calling in from. I'm on Wurundjeri country, and I just wanted to pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. So the speakers for today, myself, I'm an associate with RM Consulting Group. We are very fortunate to have 2 very experienced people on the call. We've got Helena Tierney from Big Bag Recovery, who is the General Manager of Big Bag Recovery, and Ed George, who is the Director of EPREnvio, which is a consulting company. Next slide, Ellie. So I guess you might be interested in a little bit of background as to why we are here. So the project background, and I just wanted to give a bit of a summary of what we've been doing over the last 18 months in relation to this project. So this project was developed under a New South Wales government funding, and also with AgriFutures Australia were the funding organisations, and it was really focused on post-flood recovery and trying to ensure that growers were positioned well for additional floods in the future. The focus was on chemicals and plastics, and we have worked very closely with Flower Growers Group New South Wales, Wildflowers Australia, Sustainable Forestry Network and Protected Cropping Australia. And there's 3 main focus areas that we have been working on, really to support that more sustainable and resilient flower industry, protect the environment, and also to create a safer product for florists and consumers. As you can see, the New South Wales government were the key funders, and so that's why we have had a focus on New South Wales growers, but of course it's relevant for all growers across Australia. 2 key focus areas, chemicals and plastics, and today we'll be talking about plastics. There is a lot of work that's been done around the chemical side of things. We've got workshops, fact sheets and other material that has been developed, which we'll refer to at the end. So I guess with the plastics, the 3 key things that we've been focused on is really trying to minimise the pollution of waterways and soil. Also to think about reducing the reliance on plastics in the farming system, but we all know that plastics are a really important component of how we produce food and other products. And I guess there's often not a clear alternative to a plastic product. So we need to be really conscious of not just looking at reducing the reliance, but also this end-of-life solutions. So if we are using plastics, what are some of the options we have around reuse and recycling? As I mentioned, there's 3 webinars that we're running, and this is the second one focused on big bag recovery and also greenhouse skins. I would say right at the start, we don't have clear solutions for these products, and so this will be very much an awareness of what's currently going on, but also an opportunity to think about what some of the solutions might be, and to talk to I guess facilitate a discussion around how we might try to address some of these end-of-life solutions. Just a reminder about the waste hierarchy. We've done a lot of work with the cut flower industry to look at where the different products sit on the waste hierarchy. I guess we are often trying to avoid or reduce our use of plastics, but if we can't do that, we're then moving into the reuse and recycle side. I guess the bit that we don't want is the disposal, which is currently one of the only options that's available for a lot of plastics in the industry. So today is really focusing on that recycle side, and as I mentioned, big bag recovery for bulk bags, and also there are some solutions for recycling greenhouse skins, but we just need the infrastructure and some of the logistics in place to make that happen. We did an impact assessment for the cut flower industry and determined that these were some of the top priority plastics that we thought we could deal with. Also important to note that the industry has a fantastic program in place that's run by Garden City Plastics for pots and propagation trays, and that was part of our first webinar. We also have a very strong culture, I guess, of reuse, and so the crates and some of the trays are often in reuse, or often reused for a very long time. So I think there is a strong culture. It's really just some of these end-of-life solutions for plastics that have really don't have any use at their end of life. So Ed and Helena will touch on this, but it's important to know that there's a range of different types of plastics. I'm certainly not a chemical engineer, but it's important to know what your plastic is, because you shouldn't, well, it's very difficult, it's impossible to recycle if there's mixed plastics. So we really need that clarity and single plastics when we're collecting different types of plastics. A lot of the plastics that we're dealing with in the industry are LDPE, and also PP, polypropylene. So both Ed and Helena will highlight what the plastic types are for their programs. If you would like to take a shot of that QR code, this is our website where we have a lot of the materials housed. And this is just an example of the fact sheets. As I mentioned, it's really about getting the conversation going and getting people aware of what some of the options are out there. So with that, I might pass over now to Helena. Helena is General Manager of Big Bag Recovery, and she's going to give us a bit of a summary of what Big Bag Recovery is all about. So thank you, Helena.
Thank you, Anne-Maree. Appreciate you thinking of our business today. And like you said, it's just a good opportunity for us to present Big Bag Recovery and just educate those that are interested in diverting some plastic bags from landfill. So I'll tell you a little bit about Big Bag Recovery and who we are. We have, in fact, been operating for over 10 years. So in 2015, our Managing Director, Stephen Richards, the guy that's in the orange high vis there, he was approached by two of the largest fertiliser businesses, Incitec Pivot and Impact Fertilisers. Now, those two brands were looking for solutions for their farmers so that they weren't having to bury or burn their plastic on farm or send that to landfill. We launched a pilot program in Queensland, and Steve has really, I guess, done every part of this business. He, in fact, used to fly up to Queensland, jump into a truck and manually pick up these bags himself, whilst also trying to connect with local community councils and retail outlets to promote this new pilot program. It was a huge success, and it did allow us to then expand into other states. Then we fast forward to 2021, we did go for the government accreditation and were granted the approval. And so now we are a government accredited product stewardship scheme. And we specifically deal with your sack and bulk bags that are 15 kilos or litre or more. Now, our program is membership based, and our members join the program obviously looking for sustainable options. And so, what we do is we work closely with them to understand what type of plastic they have. So, whether they use plastic internally in their business or whether they distribute their packaging or it's both. We then work on solutions on how best to recover the plastic. So, given the tyranny of distance across Australia, it is very difficult. And so, we pay particular attention to volume and how best to present the plastic packaging for collection. So we engage a national collector network, and our collector network does really vary from business to business. That will either be small collectors that are mum and dad family businesses through to your social enterprise non-for-profit. So Endeavour Foundation, a very big footprint for collections in Queensland. And then we also do work with the majors, including Veolia and Remondis. So our collector network is really the backbone of the business. They do all the heavy lifting by servicing our different businesses or our return locations. So that could be a council transfer station or it could be a retail outlet. So good examples would be Elders or Nutrient Ag, where they're predominantly selling feedstock, fertiliser and seed. So the type of plastic that we take through our program is your woven polypropylene. So that's typically your bulk bags. And then we also take your LDPE plastic. There has been some confusion in the industry before, and we have the facility to be able to process a bulk bag that in fact has a LDPE liner. So quite often, or many years ago, a lot of the farmers or businesses were removing that LDPE liner. That's not required through our program, so that does make it easier for our members and community to actually return those bags. I will also say, just on the bags as well, a number of our members do brand their bags with the BBR logo and the government accreditation logo. So quite often when they come across that, they'll see that it's part of the program. They can give us a call and then we can advise them as to where their nearest return location is as well. So the problem, it is quite a huge problem. We do estimate with woven polypropylene bulk bags that there's about 60,000 tonnes or more that's used annually in Australia. Sorry, Ellie, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. And we know that bulk bags do play a vital role in moving product around Australia, and we do deal with all different industries, so including food, manufacturing, farming and resource. But as we're aware, too often these bags are being burnt or buried on farm, releasing harmful toxins, or they're going to landfill. So with Big Bag Recovery, obviously having an option to recover and recycle these bags, we can reduce this waste and protect our environment and keep a valuable resource in circulation. So the solution. Next slide, please, Ellie. Thank you. So the solution is the program in conjunction with our sister company, Circular Communities Australia. So how our program operates, we collect the bags using our national collector network. These bags are then transported back to their site. They're baled in large blocks of plastic for efficient transportation. And then when we have generally between 20 to 36 tonne, we'll then move that plastic for processing via semi or B-double. Now the bags are then cleaned, they're shredded down into small flakes. And then these flakes are then melted and extruded into a resin pellet. These pellets can then obviously be sold to local manufacturers or internally for our own use to create new products. So this infographic does provide a good snapshot of how Big Bag Recovery integrates with Circular Communities Australia. So at the bottom, you'll see the brand owner or our member joining the program. And then if they have distributed product that ends up with the customer, who then has end-of-life packaging that's collected by our collector network. That's moved to circular communities where it is processed back into a resin pellet, back into manufacturing, and then into a new life product. So Circular Communities Australia, our sister company, it opened up in February this year and has been a project that has been in the making for quite some time now. Founder Stephen Richards and co-founder Stuart Ford always envisioned that big bag recovery would have a home for their plastic. And this was really an opportunity to provide a closed loop solution, not only to our members, but also other businesses as well. Circular Communities is one of 17 facilities worldwide. So this particular facility has been purpose-built for bulk bags, taking into consideration the various industries and all the different widgets and bits and pieces that come with those bags. And a key thing in designing this particular facility was the dedusting unit on the front end of the line. So what this actually allows us to do is the dust extractor will remove as much residual or contaminants prior to it going through to the wash line. So that was a key feature that does, I guess, set us apart from other recycling facilities. The facility is located in Toowoomba, Queensland, so it is a perfect hub for receiving plastic with key freight routes that connect Queensland with New South Wales and South Australia. So pellet to product. So the products that are being currently made at the moment do vary. Again, we've only just opened up in February, but we have established a good working partnership with Innovation Plastic Solutions down in Melbourne. They're currently manufacturing the well-known Woolworths trolley, not with our plastic, but that's what they're well known for. But they have started moving into wheel stops and now working with our members on products that they could potentially then put back into their industry. So that usually falls into, crates, pallets, and other various products. But a key focus for Circular Communities in 2026 will be leaning on the seat, which is the school seat, and water evaporation discs. And the concept of this is that they will be leased rather than sold. And that allows us to track and trace exactly where those seats and water evaporation discs land. And then at end of life, we can then recover generally 100% of what went into that school, for example, or whatever went into that dam. We'd recover that, take it back through Circular Communities again, where it can be shredded down and then extruded back into a recycled resin pellet. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now, the impact to date. We have collected just over 8.3 million kilos as part of the program. And this has gone on to be recycled and diverted from landfill. We know that for every 100 tonne of plastic that we collect through our program, we are supporting one circular economy job. So to date in our program, 80 full-time jobs nationally. Now, our program offers great track and traceability, which is something that is key for our members who join the program. We've developed a traceability system that allows us to track each step, which reports on environmental and economic benefits of recycling, but it also allows us to provide access to our members to see live reporting of what collections have occurred throughout the month or year. So a good example on the right-hand side, we have a typical collection or a pickup that occurs. We have Incitec Pivot, who are part of our program. The actual origin on which the plastic was collected was Purse House Rural, just a retail outlet in North Queensland. And our collector, the Endeavour Foundation, go out to site, collect the bags, and then they source separate those bags into the various brands. They then upload the details of that pickup into the system. So in this particular case, we've got 455 kilos of Incitec pivot bags. We estimate that's roughly about 138 bulk bags, and that collection occurred on the 21st of the 10th. What that allows us to do is provide that granular detail back to the brand, so they've got really valuable information as to where their customers are actually, encouraged to return the bags, so they can actually see that footprint, and they can also isolate that data down into state-based, town-based, and a lot of our brands and members are using this valuable information for their sustainability reporting as well. So the demand for recycled materials, just wanted to share a good news story of closing the loop. We had Australia Post join our program earlier this year, and they had a number of their international and domestic mail bags in storage. They were looking for a solution and had held on to that plastic, and thankfully they've delivered that to circular communities, where we've processed just over 100 tonne of their mail bags back into that recycled resin pellet. And now we're moving into a pallet, and that is for Australia's Post Logistics. The pallet will be made of 90% recycled materials from the plastic bags, and then 10% of that will be the car bumper bars. So what that really allows Australia Post to do is fully close the loop, and it does give them, the full track and traceability of the recycled content, and does obviously support sustainable procurement practices. So again, this is one of the things that we're doing now, is working closely with our members and community of businesses, so that they have the traceability of bags that are collected through the Big Bag Recovery Program. When we sell the pellet, we can tell them exactly where that pellet's come from. So whether that's been the aquaculture industry down in Tasmania, whether they're fertiliser bags from North Queensland, we're able to offer that traceability through our system when we collect that data on the front end. So I've just put up a couple of our members that are participating in the program. Again, we do support we have a lot of support from the Horton agricultural sector in our program. And today it's really just about educating you all on Big Bag Recovery, and just letting you know that there is a solution for those smaller sack and larger bulk bags. And I hope you enjoyed listening to me today, and look forward to some Q&A later on. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Helena. And I'm sure there'll be a number of questions about, what it means for New South Wales flower growers, and, how we can perhaps progress things in that region. So I'll just pass on now to Ed George. So Ed is a consultant. He's had a very extensive working career in the plastics area, and he is the director of EPREnvio. So Ed.
Thank you, Anne-Maree. So my chat is going to be perhaps a little bit less identifying where a solution, an end product is, but is speaking more to, I suppose, what the growers might be dealing with. Just a little bit of background on myself. I've worked for a plastics manufacturer who has been manufacturing plastics for end products for the agricultural and horticultural sector for a number of years. I also initiated a product stewardship program in ag back in probably around about 17 years ago, called PlasBack, and that was designed to address a number of different products, including some of the ones that Helen has just spoken about. And that was initiated by a company that was the biggest distributor of a number of those products at that time. The Plasback, we went on and expanded it in New Zealand as well. And I'm pleased to say that Plasback still operates in New Zealand. It is collecting well over 50% of the plastics off farms, and that includes horticulture in New Zealand now, and that is being recycled. Unfortunately, it, like a number of attempts in Australia, didn't come to fruition here. I'll talk a little bit about that in respect to possible solutions going forward. Currently, I'm working for a greenhouse manufacturer, so mea culpa there, but basically working in the hort sector. So with a lot of nurseries and also larger scale agricultural options. So I've got a pretty good, I suppose, inside running on some of the issues that growers are facing. If we can just whip to the next slide. So with when it comes to plastics with growers who will have a greenhouse or a tunnel that they're growing in, probably the largest single volume of plastic outside of growing media, if you're using a growing media, will be the actual skin on the greenhouse or the tunnel. This was designed to last 7 to 10 years. Sometimes I've seen it last, being used quite a bit longer than that, but ideally it would be replaced in that time frame because the opacity that starts to occur within the plastic due to degradation with the UV. It may have to be replaced earlier if there's a storm event that affects the structure. It is usually pretty thick. We're looking around about 180 to 200 or micromicrons, and I would say around about 80% of it will be LDPE film. Some of it will also be a woven type product. Solar Weave is probably the most recognizable brand of that, but there are other woven products like that. They are predominantly HDPE. I noticed on the little slide earlier, Anne-Maree, you had PP there. It's primarily HDPE. Both of these plastics, or both of these polymers are readily recycled and in some demand. Because of the horizon or the use horizon of 7 to 10 years, growers are only going to really have to encounter doing something about this fairly infrequently. It's unlike, say, the products from Helena's presentation, where you'll be using fert bags, going through them continuously, and other types of bag product. This is only going to happen, every 7 to 10 years. So it's probably not something that you're thinking about. And although it seems like a hell of a lot of plastic when you take it off a house, even with a twin skin house, the volume is essentially not that great when it comes to for a recycler. So, and I'll give you a little bit of an indication of what those volumes might be that they're looking for. This is an issue. So although it's a big issue for a grower when he's taking the skins and doing a reskin on his house, and it'll more than fill up a skip or several skips, it is going to be a relatively small volume. So little bit of an indication on around a hectare of which is a hell of a lot of greenhouses. You're looking at around about 1.5 tons of film on there. Segregation of that material is incredibly important if there's going to be if it's going to be recycled, and that really has to happen at source. So if it's chucked in a pile with a whole bunch of other plastics and other materials, it really makes it pretty much unviable for anyone to come and pick it up and look at recycling it. So the ideal is to take it off, try and fold it up as best as you can, and put it in its own separate pile where it can be picked up later on. So when I say we, so I'm consulting with Redpath at the moment. So Redpath build a lot of the greenhouses. In fact, there'll be growers who've got Redpath greenhouses in this and subsequent meetings. We've been just starting to work with some of our larger growers to recycle their skins when they have got a significant reskinning or they've had a big storm event. The issue, I suppose, we've had with them is around this segregation, and we're starting, we're working with those big growers so that they're learning to do that. But essentially, there is no formal system in place at the moment to recycle skins off greenhouses. There are a couple of big growers who are not in the cut flower area who have put in place their own systems. I've helped one of those, a mob called Costa Group. But there's nothing formal for smaller growers to be able to hook onto and really be able to utilise to recycle their own plastics at the moment. If we can have a look at that next slide, thanks. There are, in New South Wales in particular, there are a couple of very capable recyclers who will take LDPE and HDPE films in Albury and Taree. Unfortunately, nobody in the Sydney Basin, which seems a bit bizarre. But the issue again will be volume, and the likelihood is they will charge a gate fee for that coming in. And when I'm talking volume, we're talking probably a semi load. We're talking 10 tons plus, and of course, no grower taking 200 or 300 kilos of plastic off his house is going to be getting anywhere close to that. So really, it needs to be aggregated for there to be a load that is economic for these guys to process. When you think about it, I mean, Helena was talking about the processing facility in Toowoomba, which looks amazing. I'm actually in Toowoomba today, so I'm quite keen to go have a look at it. I'll talk to you afterwards, Helena, about that. They've got one constant stream of product coming in there, so it doesn't matter. They can process it all at once. But the majority of recyclers are processing different polymers, and so they need, and different colours. The beauty of greenhouse film primarily is it's clear, and that means it has some value. There are recyclers in, this is mechanical recyclers I'm talking about, so guys who actually put it through a process and basically chop it up, melt it again, and turn it into a pellet again. In Victoria and Queensland, who will actually cover the freight to and possibly even pay a little bit for that material. So the material does have value, and which means that there is potential if a collection process can be put in place to be able to recover that material at a relatively low cost for growers. But, and the other thing about it, because it's a clear material, it means it has value for recyclers because they have more options with it at the other end. So LDP film, clear LDP film from greenhouses can be made back into film. So that very blurred out photo in the background there is actually an extruder, a blown film extruder, and it can be made back into blown film. It'll be a lower order, so it might be going into something like garbage bags or something like that, but it certainly has value. We just go to the next slide. So there is recycling capability out there to deal with not only greenhouse films, but a number of the other plastics. And it has been increasing because, certainly federal and state governments have been putting money forward to help recyclers increase their capacity, and not only their capacity, but also the sophistication of their plant to be able to produce a higher grade polymer at the end of the recycling. And I kind of, feel like having worked in this sector for, a few years, I kind of feel like horticultural plastics is the low-hanging fruit. It is, it tends to be at end of life, it tends to be at significant volumes. So it tends to be in volumes of hundreds of kilos on farms. So, which is good. It tends to be single polymer. And all of those are issues as to why it is more attractive to collect and to recycle. The issue comes down to there needs to be a coordinated system to collect that. And when we, sorry, getting a little bit on a soapbox here, but when we do have individual systems for every single type of product, it means that we tend to have more cost going into the collection of those different items, and it makes it a little bit less, well, a lot less convenient for the farmers. I'll talk a little bit because I have been involved in EPR systems, so these environmental collection systems before, overseas and here in Australia. But look, I think the couple of really good models for that are the Plasback system in New Zealand, where they'll collect multiple streams of plastics off farms. So the farmers have one point of contact. They don't have to worry about dealing with different collection services. Sorry, Helena, to mention that. The other one who does it really well is Clean Farms in Canada, and I've spent a bit of time with those guys too, having a look at their systems. So, hey, it can be done. Both of those countries have very similar systems to both, political and farming systems to Australia. So it certainly can be done, and is being done. So if we can go to the next slide, and just one more, click once more. I'd be remiss not to, I know there's got nothing to do with greenhouse plastics, but I'd be remiss to mention this. There are options for growers to take that, especially for single use, will mean that they don't even have to worry about recycling it. And there's more and more compostable product options coming onto the market. If you're using twines, if you're using clips, even if you're using labels, they're compostable labels coming on. Some of the label guys like Norwood are starting to move into these sort of areas. So they may cost a little bit more because they tend to be made out of they're made out of a different material. So it's often a PLA-based material, which is like a plant-based polymer. But it means that at the end of life, they can be composted with your green waste. And I'm doing a fair bit of work on this with Redpath at the moment on compostable polymer options. And there are a number of other companies that are doing exactly that. So sorry to diverge slightly there, but I thought that was probably worth a mention. Last slide should be. That's kind of it from me, but this is probably just one for growers to grab your attention. I was fortunate enough to be over in Spain in February this year and visiting the plastics supplier of the Redpath group, the guys I'm doing this consulting with. And they are in the middle of an area called Almeria in the south of Spain. This is on the top of a mountain that we went up, and that's just looking down at greenhouses. So there are, when you're talking about the skins of greenhouses, you're looking down there at thousands and thousands of tons worth of plastic, which sadly is not being recycled at the moment in Spain. So it's a global issue. Some countries have dealt with it really well. I'd love to see us get some headway here. I'm working with a company that's keen to do their own thing, but really the solution is more a global one, and it means engagement with industry, engagement with government, engagement with growers. Right, I'll just hop off my soapbox and say,
okay. Thanks, Ed.
Ready for questions.
Hey, ready for questions. So if you can think of your questions, put your hand up or else just yell out. I've got a few questions that might get us going. So I guess for Helena first up, you mentioned, one of the things that could be a question is your focus has been in Queensland. Do you see that you could be sort of progressing into New South Wales in the short term, medium term, or what do you need to be confident that there's enough volume for you to make it worthwhile?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly enough volume in each state, and our program is national, with our best footprint being Queensland, because that's where the business first kicked off. We do have a fairly good footprint in New South Wales, but of course the country's so big, it really is coming down to working with groups as well. So if that was of interest to this particular industry, we'd take that offline and really understand how do we then promote it, how do we aggregate the plastic so there is enough.
Mm-hmm.
I have dealt with a few of the smaller growers, and again, like Edmund said, there's seems to be the volume is the issue. Quite often I'll have someone call up and they'll say they have 10 bulk bags, which is about 33 kilos, and so now we're dealing with how do we collect that, and it's actual economical to do that. So when we work on a larger scale and work with growing groups or regions, we can then come up with better solutions that suit industry
at that regional scale.
Yeah, and that includes having council backing, and having those return locations in strategic locations where it's easily accessible to the community to take back the bags.
Okay. There might also be a little bit of confusion, I guess, about the Bagmaster program. So we had AgSafe talking about that last week. So just wondering if you can describe the difference between the programs and their origins and their members.
Yeah, sure. Look, I can't speak in great detail about Bagmaster, and I'm sure they would have presented exactly how their program works. My understanding it is they are still in that pilot phase with something that's been rolled out across Victoria. Again, I lean on the fact that our business has been running since 2015. It started in the sort of agricultural sector and has obviously branched out to various different industries. So whilst I think AgSafe are predominantly working in their area, I suppose when I look at Big Bag Recovery, it's a solution across all different industries.
Mm-hmm.
And the key thing for us as well is we've got the processing capacity. Again, I'm not sure where they have their plastic processed. But again, if I look at the waste hierarchy that you mentioned before, and we look at recycling, for this type of plastic, mechanical recycling should be the first step before other waste to energy or pyrolysis is even considered. And again, we've got a home for the plastic, and we also have other contracts in place with processors in Australia to ensure that that's been processed.
But just a question then around the processing side of things and the logistics. When you decide to set up a collection point, and you said that it needs to be baled, and then in Queensland you're working with Endeavour to do that, manage that baling. Does the program provide the baler and the sort of next steps after that? Is that all part of the program?
No, so our collector network is not just doing collection of Big Bag Recovery program bags. They are already collecting paper, cardboard, they could be metal recyclers, they could be collecting the Drum Muster program and other on-farm plastics. So we certainly don't expect our collectors to have this as a single income source. They do other areas, and therefore they've already set themselves up to have the infrastructure to be able to then bring Big Bag Recovery into the fold of what they already, provide.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I was just trying to think through the logistics for the cut flower industry. Does anyone have any questions? And Rita, I notice you've come off. You've got your camera on. Did you have a question? Or you're on?
I do have a question, Anne-Maree. Thanks. Edmund, it was to you. It's regarding the film, the polytunnel film. Often when it comes down, it's quite, whether for replacement or storm damage or whatever, it's dirty. It's either got lichen or algae films on it. In anticipation of recycling opportunities, I guess some farms will have storage available where they can perhaps roll up the plastic and put it aside. Is there anything they can do to prepare the plastic or improve the chances of recycling in terms of cleaning? Or, I mean, obviously it's quite a big job with pressure hoses and things like that because it's an awkward material. But is there anything that they can do to improve the chances for recycling?
Good question, Rita. First of all, no grower is ever going to clean the plastic that they take off their tunnels or their greenhouses. But you know what? They don't have to. It's going to go through a wash plant. The primary issue, I just organised a pickup of about 15 tonne out of Stanthorpe, and it is. They'd left it in piles in the paddock, so it was not ideal. Better if you can have it not necessarily on a hard stand, so where it's, well, you can have it on a hard stand but not on gravel, where it's when they pick it up with a loader, it's going to actually pick up pick up stones, etc. But look, we expect that it's going to have, it's going to be, a bit green, and it's going to have stuff encrusted on it. So hence it's going to go through the wash process. But the primary thing is it's not contaminated with other elements, with other plastics, timber, whatever. So the best thing they can do is put it to one side, ideally on pallets. Makes it easier to handle at the other end. Costa Group in Corindi, they have got an arrangement with a local waste business now, and they just put it in skips, and the guys, or hook bins, and the guys just come and pick it up, and they take it straight there. It gets baled, actually gets sent down to Victoria to polymer processes. So there are different methods, but no one's expecting to be clean. Just keep it segregated. Yeah. But so first thing is you got to find someone who's going to, help coordinate taking it.
Yeah. And so that example that you had from Stanthorpe, it wasn't baled. Where did it go to?
So that's dealing with a recycler up there, and they've got a mobile baler. Okay. So they've seen a baler and they've baled it on site. Cool.
Yeah.
So it's as you know well, Anne-Maree and Helena, I'm sure, can attest. Freight, the tourity of distance, we can't be shipping stuff around the place in hook bins. 3-4 hours in a hook bin. It's got to be baled.
Yeah.
100%.
100%. Yeah. Okay. So having that baling infrastructure is pretty important, whether it's a mobile baler, as Ed mentioned, or a static one.
It's the best way of dealing with it. And like Swan Hill Council, SV have provided them funding. They've got a mobile baler. I'm not too sure how that's operating at the moment, but that would be able to, there's the Swan Hill and Mildura have got massive needs. Anyway, well, I'm getting off the track of cut flowers, but can I ask a question just quickly? Helena, you mentioned 60,000 tonnes for bulker bags a year. I was a little bit nonplussed by that volume.
Yeah, that's just data that we've retrieved from ABS, just looking at what's being imported and distributed in Australia. That's just what we've estimated anyway, just from data that we've received. I hope it's accurate.
I think there's a zero out, but there we go.
Okay.
You think it's right? Okay. Any other questions? The other point I was going to ask Ed was just in relation to EPR. Ed mentioned EPR, and that is extended producer responsibility. Did you want to just describe what that means, Ed, and how it works?
Well, yeah, okay.
Well, maybe not. Don't go into the detail of how it works.
Well, look, I mean, obviously we have to have an engagement with the major suppliers into the sector, and those suppliers are supplying to hort and agriculture, and they are there are some companies. What's happening is we've got companies going off and doing their own thing in their own area with their own brands. And I just think that's madness. I think we should be getting a sector-wide approach to the collections of these plastics, because what that does is it gives you economies of scale on collection, and it's exactly what's happening in New Zealand. It's exactly what's happening in Canada. The guys who are supplying the plastics have to reach into their pocket, and there would be a levy type situation, which is exactly what occurs overseas. But it's an even playing field for all. You haven't got brands jockeying for position, trying to get some sort of advantage on the other. But it also means that there's plenty of opportunities for commercial operators for the collection side. I'm all in favour of free enterprise and they've got a really good system in place in New Zealand around that as well. So I'm happy to speak with anyone who's not aware of that afterwards.
Okay, and just full disclosure on that, Ed and RMCG worked on developing up a national product stewardship program, which would be, extended producer responsibility focus. I guess we are fortunate, though, in the absence of a national program, to have these individual programs such as Big Bag Recovery and AgSafe, and also the Garden City Plastics program. So we have got, I guess it is exciting to see that we have got a number of solutions. And I'd really put it out to the cut flower sector to talk to both Helena and Ed. We'll provide the details after this webinar, but there's an opportunity to really push things forward and see if we can come up with solutions for some of the New South Wales regions. Before we finish, just wanted to check if there's any other questions from anyone. So if not, thanks again for attending, and we look forward to keeping in touch and really addressing this issue of plastics, which is a pretty wicked problem. So thanks again. See you later.
Thank you.